This is CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri, part of the 50th anniversary edition of Homecoming Weekend here on WCWP. We'll get started with Cindy Bradley, Deja Blue. This is CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri on 88.1 WCWP. It's the 50th anniversary of Homecoming Weekend. I can't believe it, but it's true. That was Jessie J with Rainbow Gold, as if the vocals didn't give it away, from Hot Sauce in 2011. Rainbow Gold featured Joe Sample on the piano, the Fender Rhodes, and the Korg Triton, his son Nick Sample on bass, Ray Parker Jr. on guitars, and Harvey Mason on drums. Jessie J was on the tenor sax and provided those vocals I mentioned. And she and Joe Sample wrote that song. Before Jessie, we heard Cindy Bradley with Deja Blue from Unscripted, also from 2011. Next up, more Joe Sample. This is with the Crusaders. Back in 1984, Zalale Mini, Take It Easy, from their Ghetto Blaster album. It's the 50th anniversary of Homecoming Weekend here on WCWP. The show on right now is CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri, and I am, of course, Mike Chimeri. That was Jean-Luc Ponty with Cat's Tales, and that's T-A-L-E-S, not T-A-I-L-S. See that? From Fables in 1985. Before that, the Crusaders with Zalale Mini, Take It Easy, is the translation of that, and it's from Ghetto Blaster in 1984. Well, we go from one violinist in Jean-Luc Ponty to another on this Chieli Minucci and special effects song, Alan Grubner on the violin, and the name of the song by Special Effects, You Make Me Blue, from their 25th anniversary album, Without You, that came out last year. You Make Me Blue, Chieli Minucci and Special Effects. This is CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri, part of the 50th anniversary edition of Homecoming Weekend here on WCWP. Homecoming Weekend started about 6.5 hours ago, and we're running through 11 o'clock tomorrow night. That was David. It is Saturday morning, after all. David Benoit with Will's Chill, inspired by, but didn't sound like, Will.i.am, from Earthglow in 2010. Before that, and featuring Jeff Kashua on the tenor sax. Before that, Chieli Minucci and special effects with You Make Me Blue from Without You, also in 2010. Alan Grubner was on the violin, and of course the rest of the special effects band. Jerry Brooks on bass, Lionel Cordew drums, J. Rowe keyboards, Philip Hamilton percussion. But he also does vocals, but not on that track. And we'll hear more from Jay next hour with a solo track of his from an album that came out earlier this year, a live one. Gerald Albright right now with Cape Town Strut. As we stay in 2010, this is from his Pushing the Envelope album. It's the 50th anniversary edition of Homecoming Weekend on WCWP, and this is CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri. That was Ken Navarro with Self-Propelled from Dreaming of Trains in 2010. And Jay Rowe was on the keyboards and the acoustic piano on that one, too. Not just special effects and his solo track next hour. Before that, Gerald Albright with Cape Town Strut, also from a 2010 album, Pushing the Envelope. And this, too, is from 2010. It's Schultz, the saxophonist who formerly of Down to the Bone, currently flying solo with Seeing Things Clearly, from his Going Underground album. CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri on WCWP. Nick Coleone with It's Gonna Be Alright. And this homecoming weekend is gonna be alright. It's the 50th anniversary of it. And It's Gonna Be Alright is from Feel the Heat in 2011, written by James Lloyd of Pieces of a Dream fame. On the keyboards, and he handled the programming. Nick Coleone was on all the guitars. Before that, Schiltz with Seeing Things Clearly from Going Underground in 2010. Hello, what's that? Sounded like a motorcycle going by, but it's actually the Rippingtons with Le Calypso from their Côte d'Azur album. Hopefully I said that right. Bill Heller on the keyboards and the skating rink organ, and Jeff Kashua. There he is. Back on the alto sax this time. Rippingtons, Le Calypso. CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri on WCWP, the 50th anniversary edition of Homecoming Weekend, all weekend. The Rippingtons are who you just heard with Le Calypso from Côte d'Azur in 2011. Bill Heller was on the keyboards, which included that skating rink organ setting. And Russ Freeman, one of the guitars he played, was the slide guitar, and both of those things were on display at their Smooth Cruise concert back in July. Taking us into hour 2 of this fine program on this fine weekend, Bernie Williams with He Reigns. As a book out, along with percussionist Dave Gluck and trumpeter Bob Thompson, Rhythms of the Game, the link between musical and athletic performance. I recently finished reading it. It's a great read, especially since I dabble in music myself and I love sports. Bernie Williams, He Reigns.
I think the American people have rejected the Equal Rights Amendment. They don't want to be forced into a society in which women must be treated exactly like men.
You got me, Doc. I'm going. Everything is getting dark.
Oh, Mr. Wilson, how are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mitchell. I just dropped by to tell Dennis the good news.
Is it good news, Mr. Wilson?
Celebrating 50 years on the air. Homecoming weekend on WCWP, Brookville.
You are now in hour 2 of CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri here on WCWP, the 50th anniversary edition of Homecoming Weekend. Hour 1 concluded with Bernie Williams and He Reigns from Moving Forward in 2009. We begin hour 2 with the Jeff Lorber Fusion, the 2010 version of them, incarnation of them, with a song from 1977, re-recorded, Chinese Medicinal Herbs. This is CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri on WCWP, 50th anniversary of Homecoming Weekend. Spyro Gyro with Sweet Ol' Thang from A Foreign Affair in 2011, written by the drummer Bonnie Bonaparte. He also plays percussion. There's some percussive instruments in the drum kit. Before that, the Jeff Lorber Fusion with Chinese Medicinal Herbs from Now Is the Time in 2010, featuring Eric Marienthal on the soprano sax, Jimmy Brantley on percussion, Dave Weckel on drums. Eric and Dave were part of the Chick Corea Electric Band, and Jimmy Haslip on bass. We'll hear Eric later with Chuck Loeb, and Jimmy Haslip later with Yellow Jackets, but right now, Here's Chuck Loeb, who I mentioned just now, with Foreplay. Third Degree, this is a song that Chuck wrote, his first album with the band. The rest of the band, Harvey Mason on drums. We heard him last hour with Jesse J. Nathan East on bass, and Bob James on piano and other keyboards. Third Degree is the song by Foreplay on the number 4, F-O-U-R play, here on CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri, WCWP. That was Yellow Jackets with Why Is It? On CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri, the 50th anniversary edition of Homecoming Weekend. It's a part of it on WCWP. And Why Is It by Yellow Jackets is from their album Timeline in 2011, their 30th anniversary album. Before that, Foreplay with Third Degree from Let's Touch the Sky in 2010. This year, their Foreplay is celebrating their 20th anniversary, and for me, it's my 10th. I began at WCWP on October 5th, 2001, a little over 2 weeks ago. Next up, as I promised last hour, J. Rowe from his Live at Daniel Street album in Milford, Connecticut, Martinis and Bikinis. Boy, what can you say after that other than this is CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri, part of the 50th anniversary edition of Homecoming Weekend on WCWP. Chuck Loeb with the Blues app. They have an app for everything these days. But I don't have an iPhone or an iPad. I just have an iPod and iTunes. And I think, and I actually know because I wrote it down, that the Blues app, and I know it because I have the album, is from Plain and Simple in 2011. Chuck, of course, was on guitar. Pat Bianchi was on the organ. And man, it had that Ray Charles feel during his organ solo. Harvey Mason on drums. And the horn section was Nathan Eklund on the trumpet and the trombone. And Eric Marienthal, who we heard earlier with Jeff Lorber Fusion, back on the alto sax. With Chuck and Harvey, it's two-play, a half of foreplay. Before that, J. Rowe with Martinis and Bikinis from Live at Daniel Street, the club on Daniel Street, of all places, in Milford, Connecticut, his hometown. And that album came out in 2011, but was recorded on December 12th, 2010. I know I was invited to it. I couldn't make it, but this album sure makes up for it. He opened for Chieli Minucci in special effects, the band he's part of. Jay on piano and keyboards, Ron Lawrence on guitar. He had that really good guitar solo. Dave Lavolsi on bass, Trevor Somerville on drums. Next up, Matt Marshak in a song he co-wrote with Stix Bones, S-T-I-X Bones. Harlem River Drive is the song, and it's also an actual thoroughfare. This is CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri, part of the 50th anniversary edition of Homecoming Weekend on WCWP. Brian Simpson with South Beach from South Beach in 2010. And we go back up to New York for Harlem River Drive by Matt Marshak, who we heard before Brian. And Harlem River Drive is from Urban Folktales in 2011. Mario Cruz was on the flute. And the song was written by Matt and by Stix Bones. Stix was on the keyboards and the programming. Matt was on the guitar, as he is a guitarist. And here's a saxophonist, Dave Kaz. Brian Simpson is Dave's musical director for his tour. And this song by Dave from his Hello Tomorrow album is Anything's Possible. Acoustic Alchemy with One for Shorty. Shorty Diane Granger, Greg Granger's daughter, killed tragically last year. And One for Shorty is from Roseland in 2011. Greg Granger was on the drums, Gary Granger on bass, the guitarists, the lead guys in the band, Greg Carmichael on one guitar and Miles Gilderdale on the other. Greg's brother Gary on bass, Fred White on the keyboards, Ricky Peterson on the organ. By the way, this is CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri, part of the 50th anniversary edition of Homecoming Weekend on WCWP. And before we heard Acoustic Alchemy, we heard Dave Koz with Anything's Possible from Hello Tomorrow in 2010. We have one song left here on CJazzPlus before we head over to Wilbury Steve and the Warlock Radio Show, the Pugwash edition. And that song, the second to last song of this show, Brian Hughes, Super Tight. That was Brian Hughes with Super Tight as we wrap up CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri on WCWP. And Super Tight is from Fast Train to a Quiet Place in 2011. It's the 50th anniversary of Homecoming Weekend, and it continues next with Wilbury Steve and the Warlock Radio Show Pugwash edition. Hope you enjoy the rest of this homecoming weekend here on WCWP. We're going on straight through to 11 o'clock tomorrow night. The last song of CJazzPlus with Mike Chimeri, Chris Geit, Above the Clouds, from Island of a Thousand Dreams in 2010. So long.